Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you guys like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So 7 days before the 2024 presidential election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, a lot of people are already voting though because early voting is a thing and we have a lot of data that we can analyze. And by the way, none of it looks good for Kamala Harris. None of it looks good. It's not over. People need to understand we can't take our foot off the gas. But when you're looking at this data, it is apocalyptic for Kamala Harris if it keeps up. And every day we're like, okay, maybe it slows down now. Maybe it slows down now. No, it doesn't slow down. And this is a major problem for Democrats. They're going to have to get a bunch of people out to vote on Election Day who likely have never voted before on Election Day in order to win this election. But right now, the enthusiasm level, it's not with Harris. The momentum is not with Harris. The media becomes more and more unhinged every day. The problem is a lot of people are numb to that, and very few people are changing their minds at this point. And we're going to go through it state by state in this video in terms of the early vote and kind of show what's going on, the states that we kind of have access to. Some states we know more about than others, but regardless, what we do know is that the polling is now showing Donald Trump in the lead by 0.4 percentage points nationally, and we are 7 days away from the election. Now, keep in mind, in 2020 at this point, Biden led by like over 8 percentage points. Donald Trump, he never led in 2020. He led for like a combined couple days in the summer of 2016. And now he currently has taken the lead down the stretch. This is unprecedented. He leads in every swing state, including Wisconsin, by the way, where the polls have always underestimated him by a lot. And this is just an awful situation the Democrats are in. And every day that goes by that they're not able to reverse course, they're running out of time. So we're going to dive into the numbers and go state by state, but I want to tell you guys really quickly about my merch store over at shop.redeaglepolitics.com because this Friday at midnight or Saturday at midnight, whichever way you guys want to put it, we're going to be closing down the store. Everything must go. We're still running the special buy one, get one 20% off all t-shirts, tank tops, and mugs. But we have new merchandise. We got the Trump McDonald's shirt. We got the Make America Great Again Trump working at McDonald's, that iconic shirt. It's also available in the coffee mug format. You got Trump on the front, working at McDonald's, and then you got the logo on the back side right here in the coffee mug. It's great. We got a great selection for you guys to choose from. Buy one, get one 20% off all t-shirts, tank tops, and coffee mugs. But for a limited time, only 3 days left to go. Make sure you guys check it out. So in terms of the election, we only have like 7 days left to go. And Donald Trump, as things stand today, is on the verge when you look at the early data. We could start off by looking at North Carolina because you can compare it to past election cycles. Donald Trump so far, we don't know his percentage, but we know the Republican percentage. And Republicans had a deficit at the end of the day in 2020 by around, 6 percentage points in the combined mail and early. And right now, Republicans are the ones that actually have the advantage. And independents in North Carolina typically lean right at the presidential level. Now, down ballot's a different story. A lot of those voters are going to split their tickets for Donald Trump and Josh Stein at the governor's level. But what we know is that Republicans are building a lead. They're the ones building a firewall in North Carolina as we speak. And that's unprecedented. And again, this is a state that has a lot of its votes cast early. This isn't like Pennsylvania, which we'll get to in a minute, where, in the midterms, a much smaller percentage of the electorate voted early. North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, these states have had that large emphasis on early voting. Even going back to 2016, a lot of these states had a sizable percentage of the electorate that voted early. And right now, Republicans building up a 1.1% lead, and we still have, ways to go. And Republicans are probably going to keep those numbers going up as things stand. But also, the black share of the electorate is not where the Democrats would like it to be, and that's a major problem for them. They had souls to the polls. They couldn't even really make a dent in that. And then still, it's like 17%. That's the early electorate. That is not good news for them. This is where Democrats typically have been banking their votes. They did it in 2020. They did it in 2022. And we don't have to go through all the little numbers in Georgia, but it's even more dire there because the black share of the electorate is much larger, but the turnout gap is significant compared to 2020 or even 2022. Black voters are not enthused to vote for Kamala Harris, and the black voters that do turn out, Trump's probably going to gain with them. So you talk about these states in Trump's column so far, which I think it's likely he carries both. The polls in Georgia typically are, very accurate. One of those states where, regardless of year, the polls hold up. Georgia, that's the way it is. Trump leads in Georgia by like 2 to 3 in the polling. We polled Georgia. We'll be releasing that poll later today, not to give too much away, but this is a recurring pattern that we're seeing. And then you look at the Southwest, because already you talk about those two states. Trump, if he holds North Carolina, gets Georgia, Pennsylvania wins it all. But I wanted to talk about these two states, Arizona and Nevada, because you'd like to add as many pathways to victory as you possibly can. Let's say he gets Wisconsin but not Pennsylvania. You're going to need at least Arizona. But when you look at the data out of Arizona, it's getting a little ridiculous because Republicans have built up this massive firewall of 127,000 votes. And typically Republicans gain a little bit late in the early cycle too. 2022, they had an advantage based on party registration. That doesn't always translate to votes, as we know, but you're talking about being, at this day in history, 226,000 votes ahead of 2020. Trump fell short by, 10,000 votes in 2020? That is a massive shift. And we talk about independents. People are saying, she'll make it up by winning independents. Let me just be clear here. Do you believe that independents are going to vote for Donald Trump at a lower rate than they did in 2020 when the country was basically on fire? The answer is probably not. Trump is improving in every poll that we've seen among independents. You talk about the issues that have changed. It was COVID and BLM. Now it's the border and the economy. That is a massive shift towards Donald Trump on that front alone. So you're seeing that there. It's going to be very difficult for Democrats to win Arizona based on how many votes that Republicans are currently banking and the fact that they're still expected to, win the election day vote, which is not going to be a big percentage of the electorate, but we're seeing more and more returns in Arizona. Donald Trump is in a much, much better spot than he was in 2020 or that Republicans were in 2022. Arizona's looking like it's a really, really good state for Trump, but the shift we've seen in Nevada is even bigger because you're talking about an 80,000 point shift to the right since 2020 at the end of the day there. That's the early vote firewall. This is the final total. If you talk about this many days out, it was basically about the same in both, but Republicans are adding to their lead every single day. They're the ones with the firewall. This is not the Democrat days where they talked about, we have the firewall, we have the firewall. No, we have the firewall now. That is brutal news for Democrats out of the state of Nevada. You're talking about Republicans enthused. Democrats are just not showing up, as we know. And the cope will be, what about the independents? Well, again, if Republicans are more enthused, typically to turn out than Democrats, wouldn't you anticipate that the independents that are turning out are going to lean more Republican than not? The answer should be yes, especially because independents in Nevada have roughly been 50-50 split. I think Biden only won them by around, 5 points or so, maybe less than that in 2020. Registered independents. Trump probably, you could even make the case, wins them outright and possibly carries Sam Brown to the Senate with them in the process just based on what's happening right now in the state of Nevada. This is a massive, massive shift. All the people that have always called Nevada right, even when polls showed Republicans winning and they ended up losing certain races, people like John Ralston, the Culinary Union, all those people are basically admitting, Harris is in a tough spot. They're not going to come out and say she's cooked, but she's in a tough spot. I mean, you see this. The Sun Belt is not looking good for her. North Carolina, allegedly pulling out some ad revenue from there. That's not entirely good. I think they feel really good, obviously, about the governor's race, but they feel bad enough about the presidential race that they're like, okay, well, we got to We got to assemble in the Rust Belt now, which, again, that's not looking too good for them because, again, they barely won and they were running Biden in 2020, who actually had some sort of appeal to those white working class voters. San Francisco/Canadian Kamala versus Scranton Joe. Of course, Biden's, he's like the Catholic boy from Scranton, like facade was a facade. He's basically just a LARPer, and we know that. But still, it's something that a lot of people could look to in a very chaotic time like 2020 and say, okay, I trust this guy because he's been in office before. Maybe he'll govern like a moderate. And he's governed anything but a moderate. And Kamala Harris is kind of like the symbol of that, radicalism that we understand. And that's how these voters view this situation. And the people that voted for Trump but maybe voted for Biden, they're going to go back to Donald Trump most likely. And that's something I feel like a lot of Democrats aren't ready for, but it's largely true. And when you look at Pennsylvania, Republicans are eating into the Democrat request firewall. They had a 500,000 request advantage, but now that's basically gone to 492,000. It's probably going to be even lower after today, which, by the way, if you want to request an early ballot in Pennsylvania, today is the last day to do it. So get out and do that if you'd like, and you live in Pennsylvania. If not, you better make sure you get to the polls on Election Day, like your life depends on it. And then you look at the new returns, it's basically 50-50 split. They didn't gain anything. They gained 687,000 votes on the Republicans. They need to gain a lot more than that. You talk about what's going on in Pennsylvania, and there is an error here because one of the days is duplicated. It's the 29th, so the drop from the 29th, Republicans are at 32.1% of requests, but also in returns, there was the concern people had, well, the returns, they're not going to catch up to the requests. Yes, they were. They always were. Anybody who said that early data was good for Democrats does not understand electoral politics. If you want to go back to 2020 or even 2022, Republicans represented 21.15% of returns. Now they represent 31.76%. Tomorrow they're going to hit 32, most likely. They're probably going to hit 33 as things stand. We're talking about like 56% of those returns being Democrat and 33% being Republican. Democrats may not even hit 400,000 if this continues what happened today, because there's a chance we end up out returning them tomorrow. Now, will that be a guarantee? We don't know. But still, that's not the position they want to be in. I think that, if you could see that the last day of the requests being the case, and then maybe Democrats start to gain marginally in the returns, but we're talking about them being in a position where they may not hit that original lowball firewall they wanted to. They said 390,000, which is a total joke, by the way, and now they may not even hit that total lowball estimate joke, so the goalposts continue moving, and we understand that. And Michigan has opened up their in-person early voting, and you're looking at the counties where the ballot returns are the highest. They're mainly in the strong Republican counties, which is absolutely huge, and you're starting to see them gain significantly as things stand right now. Now, of course, it's not a done deal. We don't have party registration stats in Michigan. Michigan and Wisconsin are going to be much harder to use early data to predict, but I will say that the areas where they're returning ballots in really high rates right now, it's the WOW counties, which are still largely Republican, very Republican areas. Dane County is like the high turnout Democrat place, but they're actually not getting the numbers that Republicans are getting in WOW so far. Now, there's a lot that's uncertain because they don't register by party ID, but if he gets one of these three, he gets Wisconsin, it's done. He gets Michigan, it's done. He doesn't even need the other two. If he gets Pennsylvania, it's done. He wouldn't even need Arizona and Nevada at that point, but he's likely going to get both of those. But let's say Harris, for some reason, won Georgia out of nowhere. Trump would still win, and that's what's crucial. So as the days go by, it's getting more and more difficult for Kamala Harris. Her campaign is in a doom spiral, and now they're just trying to scare the American public that Trump is the worst thing ever, even though we've had Trump in office for 4 years, and Americans view his presidency, in retrospect, being relatively solid. If you ask the question, do you approve of the job that Trump did? They approve, and his personal favorables are growing more and more, and the trust in media is getting less and less as time goes on. This is not 2016 or 2020. The landscape has changed, and if this keeps up in the early vote, Kamala Harris is going to have a really rough night. Let me just say that. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. And I will see you guys in the next one. Red Eagle, out.